The world is burning, and we're not here to hide from it. We're here to build in the middle of it. This is Altars and Ashes podcast, where we talk about worship in the ruins, faith under fire, and how the men of God can pick up their trowel and their sword. I'm Bruce, here with Robbie and Austin, and this is where we start.
So, Bruce, how's your week been?
Man, my week has been fantastic. Just sitting here recording a podcast with you guys has made it all worthwhile. So I'm excited about this podcast. I know some of the listeners may or may not have followed some different things that we've done in the past, but this is a brand new podcast and we're excited about it. We're going to be talking about how to rebuild Christendom in the middle of the ashes. And so sort of the name there is Building Altars, which of course, has a lot of Old Testament imagery of worship, covenant, consecration, memory, and then the ashes represents, judgment, loss, cultural decay, maybe even repentance.
Well, and we'll be commemorating that with ashes come off of a cigar.
Yeah, I was going to save that for the last part. Oh. Really, ashes was really just about cigars.
Yeah.
So,
well, and here's the irony for those that are listening.
You introduce yourself, by the way.
Well, my name's Austin Tucker. I'm the preaching pastor at Grace Point Church. I've been here since October of 2008, and time has flown. And here with me is a fellow elder. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm Robbie Stringer. I'm one of the other elders at Grace Point Church, and I've been here, about 8 years now, I think.
8 long years.
Yeah. His flew by. Yours has gone very slow.
So slow.
And of course, I'm Bruce Deming Fleming.
Yes. So let me get this right. Your mother named you a Dem Fleming.
International Man of Mystery.
Oh, Dem Fleming. Bruce Dem Fleming. Yes. But you got to understand, to those that are listening, the name is a little bit of irony because we are literally building from ashes.
Yep.
We're building from ashes.
This podcast is being built from the ashes.
It's being built from the ashes.
Yep.
But this time we're going to be hosting it as a ministry under the church, under the protection of the church, and eventually offshoot of that.
Yeah.
But
for now, anytime you hear Bruce, BD. Yes. This is why we're going
BD. Bruce.
Yep.
Bruce Deming Fleming. Bruce Deming Fleming.
It rhymed.
Yeah, Bruce Fleming. Now,
I wish people could see Robbie's face the whole time. He's just like, "What are we doing?
What is happening?"
So, does Bruce have some books coming out soon?
Bruce has always got something coming out.
This has gone off the rails very quickly.
We need to start over.
Are we still going to do all this laughing with?
No, I'm going to edit. So that's the thing is, I'm a good editor.
Okay.
I can fix this if we just keep marching.
Bruce laughing like a maniac while just saying his name. That's Bruce. Now you got to edit that out.
He had to give his name Deming. Bruce.
Yes, sir.
So you have some books that are in publication.
I do. Right now, those are under a different name. But I am actually going through in the process of writing those. Yeah, you've got to write enough of a difference to make it be like a different edition. And so probably we'll end up actually renaming some of them too. I know, for instance.
Do I have to keep rebuying all
not
of
only
them
do you
every
have to
time?
Yeah, that's right. You have to rebuy each one. Everybody listening. Of course, I haven't told them what the names of the book are. Yeah. So, ultimately, I think at some point we'll probably link the old podcast to this one, right? So that way people will have a chance to know where we're starting. This is not the beginning of our journey. Really, it's just a change in the name.
It's a change in direction.
Yeah.
It's a safer direction.
Yeah. So I'll just come right out with it. So in our old podcast, when I was going by my actual name, got a little bit of persecution in the sense that my company asked me to cease all outside activities because some of the things that we were saying were not in alignment with what they believe.
The political
correct Fortune 500 company beliefs. And so ultimately we had to either sacrifice the podcast or change the name and kind of go a different direction. And I think that's where we all wanted to continue doing this because we think that what we're doing is purposeful, good, and right. And people had reached out. They were benefiting from it. Our number one fan became a host on the podcast, so had to be a good thing.
That's me.
Yeah.
I really loved when we were doing the old podcast.
Yeah.
We were dealing very honestly from a biblical perspective.
Yeah.
We are patriarchal, Bible-believing Christian.
Yeah.
And Brother Robbie and I both work. I work full-time as a pastor and do a little school men. Brother Robbie works full-time as a high school teacher and also part-time church staff. That's really how it's laid out. So we're both non-fireable.
Yeah.
For standing on the truth.
We can't cancel you guys.
You can't cancel us out.
Yep.
You live and work in a secular world.
Yep.
Where you have to be hireable.
Yep.
Your first ministry is your family.
Yeah.
And I know there's going to be some people listening to this podcast and be like, well, that's a cop-out. It's not a cop-out.
Yeah.
It is the reality to be as wise as a serpent, as harmless as a dove.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to stand on the truth, protect what needs to be protected, and rebuild on ashes and tear down some strongholds that need to be torn down.
That's right. Yeah, go ahead.
And Bruce, right as you were kind of going through a lot of this stuff, Austin, you preached really about the wise as serpents, harmless as doves concept in the book of Matthew. Mm-hmm. And I immediately thought of your situation.
So did I.
and so I wasn't going to look back at you. But And so I think that really applies. And I think there would be some people who don't have to deal with that type of thing that could be very quick to judge and mouth off. And because as human beings, that's kind of what we do. We look at other people's situations when we're not going
from
forward.
Our perspective.
Exactly.
Well, see, I had fun preaching that sermon because the entire time I made uncomfortable eye contact the whole time with Bruce.
Yeah.
Just stared and preached right at all the people in the room. I just stared at Bruce.
I do that every time I'm preaching, no matter what I'm talking about.
For real. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when it's polemic about something like that. He's like, yeah, this is Bruce, definitely.
My next sermon's actually just entitled Bruce. That's really,
we're having too much fun with the name Bruce. So I think, if we're talking about this podcast, I would love to know what you guys think about it. I want to say that it's more than just theology, right? Like we will definitely talk about theology. We're all three pretty big theology nerds. But really this is a tactical podcast about like living out faith in the real world where things are, well, like we just talked about. The real world is that, you can get canceled from your job
100%
for stating biblical truth. That's the ashes part of this, right? The ashes is we are so far from Christendom that if you say something that is biblical truth, you can lose your whole livelihood.
These people do not. So when the world sees a Christian, they do not think, I can't stand that guy.
Yeah.
What they typically think is, I'm going to destroy that guy.
Yeah. Well, and this isn't necessarily a political podcast or anything like that, but there are two different sides of that coin. There are some people that go, okay, I disagree. I think that person's an idiot for saying it. I'm not going to listen to that anymore, or I'm not going to read that. There's another side that says, I disagree. I have been harmed. I'm offended. Therefore, I shall seek and destroy. And unfortunately, that's exactly what happened with my situation. Somebody read one of the things that I had written, which was not at all outlandish, like one of my prouder pieces of writing, actually. And it was a series. But the bottom line is it was offensive to them. And so they took it to the company that I work for, and the company I work for said I had to shut it all down. So
it's hard to believe that a fast food chain would be that politically correct.
Well, fast food is very liberal nowadays.
It is.
So
it's very liberal.
That's where
nobody would ever thought the clown would do this.
I know. Yep. Char broiled, Robbie, let's go to you. What's this podcast about for you? I know one of the things when we were first talking about, okay, if we changed this name, which was like 12 minutes ago, what does it mean to you? So we had talked about it, altars and ashes. What does it mean to you? What do you want this podcast to be about?
Well, the thing about our society is there are a lot of ashes. We were just talking about a little bit before that a lot of what we would call Christendom, where Christianity was the main driver and thought process of truth. Like that's what guided people's concept of reality and stuff like that. Yeah. Much of that has been dismantled. Not all of it, but there are definitely ashes were around. And so to me, the altar we are building is trying to rebuild a lot of things. Yeah. In many ways, you want to, if you're going to rebuild something, you do want to make something that's even better than before. Of course. And so I think this podcast is where Christians can come, where we come and others come to listen, where we can think about theology, we can think about culture, and we can think carefully and deeply about it in a way that we put everything under the lordship of Christ. Yep. And that's what we look to build, and hopefully in the future, as this world comes to that in more and more ways under his lordship.
Yeah. Very optimistic of you.
That is optimistic.
I like it. Yeah, I like it.
I think we all have an optimistic view because if just for the theology nerds, I'm very Kuyperian. You know, this podcast is about rebuilding. It's about building what God's ordained to be from the fall. We got ejected out of the garden. Men was separated from the truth. Christ came. We're reconnected to truth. We are in a sense reconnected back to Him who is all truth. Yeah. And so we are rebuilding Eden right where we are, and we're saying over every square inch of land, it belongs to God. Yeah. Every child belongs to God. Every government should bow to God, and we say that without apology. Every corporation will one day bow the knee to God, and I know that we're living in a world where they have control, but that control is an illusion for the fact that God is already on His throne, and they will make an answer for everything they do. Yeah. And so for us, for me, I figured you were going to ask me next.
We're not. No.
My bad.
Moving on.
No, go ahead.
I deserve that. I walked right into that. Yeah. I walked right into that. We are going to burn what needs to be burned. Yeah. Build what needs to be built, and build out that which has been burnt down. So we're both pulling down strongholds and building strongholds. And when I think of altar and ashes, that's what I'm thinking of. Both as a culture, the reformation of the church, the reformation of the household reformation, Yeah. So
I've heard of it. Heard of it. Yeah. Well, and I think if each one of us talked about some of the ashes that we see, the one that for me is probably the biggest is the breakdown of the household, right? I think that's just where, discipleship starts. And unfortunately, I think that part of the ashes is that we don't have a lot of Christian homes, and the ones that are Christian homes aren't discipling, catechizing, and raising their family up in a Christian way. I think, we'll talk about this at some point in different podcasts, but building sort of Christian enclaves or boroughs, I think is important to make sure that whole communities are being discipled. Yeah. So what do you guys think? Robbie, what do you think?
I agree with you about the household. Okay. I also think the education system and how that, I mean, in many ways, I think that how people are educated, everything flows from that. And of course, that's kind of what you're saying from the home, right? Because that is our...
Well, education flows from the home too, so yeah.
I mean, that is the first place you were educated. No matter when you go to school, whether you... I realize some people are homeschooled, and so they're educated in the home for a long time, but even if you leave for school in kindergarten or whatever, it is still your first place of education. Yeah. And it is, when you come from school, you go back to that every day. And that shapes your life or does not shape your life.
Well, and education can shape your home life too, right? Home can shape the education. Education can come back and shape the home as well. Like people pick up ideas at school that they take home.
That they bring home.
Yeah, exactly.
So the whole love and priority from education is a Western Christian, it's part of the Western Christian paideia. Yeah. And when you undermine any part of that, the church and the home, you go two different fields of domain, they have a crossover in education for our kids. And they both have to be equally supporting of one another. And I don't think the government really has any place with the children made in the image of God. Personally, that's another podcast for another time.
Yeah. What do you guys think about like church weakness? I think that's one of the ashes.
I'm against it.
You're against church weakness. Okay, moving on. I think I'm against it as well. I think that's...
And Austin, we know you want to be asked too. Are you also against church weakness?
I am for the church being weak in their own flesh and leaning on Christ. Yes. I can't believe you're not for that,
okay.
Robbie. You think you're going to build this with your own strength?
I feel ashamed.
Yeah.
The church is effeminate. That's the biggest church weakness in our generation. It's effeminate, egalitarian, and it's just, we have gotten away from the grander story that Jesus was a dragon slayer who slayed the dragon and got the girl. It's a masculine story. The church is a masculine body, even though it's called the bride.
Yeah.
Now let me ask about that, because I mean, it is a church filled with men and women.
Yes.
So would you say that there is a place for masculinity and femininity in that church?
There's 100% a place for femininity with the women. Paul's command to the women is that or his instruction to the women and Timothy is they'll be saved as if by childbearing, okay, if they continued in faithfulness. So the concept is a woman leans into her motherly nature and rears up godly children, they flip the world upside down. The promise in the Garden of Eden in Ephesians, in Genesis 3:15, was the seed of the woman. And at that, Adam says, I will no longer call you Isha, woman, but I'm going to call you Eve, which means life. And he says that right after the curse. So is there a place for femininity? Yes, in the helpmeet that God has put in place for the men who he's called to lead the church. That's where they belong. It's not a lesser, it's a magnifying role. Women magnify men, and men magnify God. That's God's order in Corinthians. We're made in the image and glory of God. Women are image and glory of men. So is there a place for femininity? Yes. I praise God for godly women. The church would not be where it's at without godly women. Mm-hmm. Even in the New Testament, there's so many godly women that show up and do amazing things. And I think they can serve pretty much every area.
What is the couple that like ministered together?
Priscilla and Aquila.
Priscilla and Aquila. I love that aspect.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She's named first, and which implies, and everything I've read, that she was the better expert when it came to theology than her own husband. But at the same time, the Bible also says that a woman should learn in silence. If she has a question, ask her husband. Yeah. The Bible teaches patriarchy. So I'm for a woman being in leadership as so much that they are under the patriarchy, leading children or other women's ministries and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think
you want your women to be steeped in theology.
Yes.
But you also have to represent that man is the head of the woman and Christ is the head of the church. And the man ultimately has to be the one that is responsible in the decision making.
God's not going to hold our ladies accountable for the health of the church.
Yeah.
It's going to be us.
Or for the health of the home. I mean, I think that there are pieces that they control, but ultimately the decision maker is the one where the buck stops.
It stops with us.
Yeah.
And until ladies, oftentimes, even Christian ladies, they are so steeped and catechized by our culture and feminism that when they hear stuff like this, they kind of cringe.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if it's pouring the rain and we're standing outside and I have an umbrella, my wife's going to expect me to give her the umbrella and me to walk in the rain.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do it sacrificially because God put in me a desire to protect that which is weaker and to prize that. Yeah. And that is not a downgrade. That's a lifting up. That's a loving, that's a glorifying, that's a thankfulness to God for what he's given us and my help me, because we give them the works of our hands and they magnify and multiply it.
Yep.
That's what women are supposed to do. They create culture, men take dominion.
Yeah. Yep.
And I think that plays into the church.
Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Excellent. Well, as you can see, one of the things that go ahead.
Yeah, I just was. That's one of the reasons I said that I want to think carefully.
Yeah.
Because when we say that, we need a strong church, I agree. Mm-hmm. When we need one led by men. I agree. I mean, that is what the scriptures teach. But I also want to be careful and emphasize the fact that we are a church of men and women. Yeah. And they bring different things because God designed us differently.
I praise
made us
God
different.
for our godly sisters. Our church would not be as healthy as it is without the godly sisters. That's all part of God's plan. But it also wouldn't be healthy at all if women were leading, period.
Yep.
And I say that without apology. Mm-hmm. And that's another podcast for another time. We can definitely talk about that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's good though. I think this is going to be a shorter podcast. But what I think that listeners can expect is this exact thing, this real talk. You know, it's not always polished. We have Robbie to help us polish everything.
Yeah, he does this. So I watch him. This is Robbie's teaching style. I watch him do the exact same thing with the teenagers when he's teaching civics and economics in the school. He'll pose a question. And he knows what he believes, but he posed a question to draw out the conversation, which is good because it helps define things. But I've also watched it kind of backfire on him over the years, like him saying stuff and kids like saying, "Oh yeah," like agreeing with communism before he like comes back.
Yeah, this was not the direction I was trying to go. No.
So
what is that? One of the philosophers. It's named after one of the philosophers.
Socrates.
Yeah. Socratic method, right? Yeah.
I mean, my kind of philosophy, whether and this is more teaching like history and civics and stuff, but there's a certain amount when it comes to teaching the Bible as well, because I guess my philosophy is that neutrality is kind of a myth. We all come from things from a particular perspective.
Yep.
But when you are talking about something that maybe you disagree with, you can be fair without saying that you agree with it. And so I think that's especially important when talking about controversial subjects that other Bible-believing Christians in particular might disagree. Or if what I hear, I'm like, I agree with that, but I can imagine how someone else might hear it and might misunderstand it. And I ministered in Chicago, Illinois for a long time. And one of the things I always had to think to myself is how is a secularistic liberal going to hear what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, and see, that's the reason why God's for plurality of elders, because he has basically what he was saying is that he has an empathetic ear.
Yeah, I was sitting there listening and going, "You're an empath."
I don't have an empathetic ear at all, to the point where the Bible commands me to weep with those who weep and rejoice with those who rejoice. But sometimes I have to work those tears up. That sounds mean. I don't literally. My heart does break. I am emotional, but I'm not quick to put myself in other people's shoes.
But even empath doesn't necessarily mean you're emotional about it. It just means you
Robbie's
can sense what other people are feeling or thinking.
Yeah,
and you're able to recognize that.
And you have to do it in a balance, because you still have to stand for truth,
right? Yeah,
and wisdom,
right?
Even with having that understanding at the same time.
And I've seen that. That's one thing I can say in your character. I love about your character, and I always like when we have disciplinary issues in the elders. I always want to bring Robbie along when we're dealing with it, because I'm like, you need to repent, get on. Yeah. Robbie's like, well, why did you go down this road? Yeah. How can we fix this?
Right.
Where I just want to slap him.
Sort of.
Yeah. And, but I mean, that's why God calls for plurality of elders. Neither one of us are Jesus Christ. He's the head of the church, and we got to hold each other accountable and balance each other. Yeah. And, prayerfully, we'll have a Fleming, one day.
A dimming Fleming?
A dimming.
There we go.
No, I'll hold it together. So our conversations will be Bible saturated. They will always seek to try to give some application as well, right? I mean, that's one of the things that most people need, some bite-sized things that they can take away and work on. Because we have Robbie Stringer, hopefully we'll have a lot of stories about history and about maybe some church history. I know we talked about that in our last one, to do that. So maybe we do some church history stuff, maybe occasional guests, but we're still kind of figuring out exactly what this is. Just to be totally transparent, we had a really good thing going, and it was going in a good direction.
And it was growing at a decent rate.
Yeah. We had a good group going. And so
I think in a lot of ways, our discussions here have kind of revealed in a lot of the direction, the home, the church, I mentioned teaching, which I think has to do with like culture. And so I think that, and how those meet together.
Yeah.
And because we see a kind of a decay, a burning to ashes, one might say.
One might say that.
And we are trying to rebuild those other areas and things connected to them.
I think what's interesting too is we're all pretty big theology nerds. We all are into politics, at least enough to know what's going on in current events, or to have a tinfoil hat, depending on what it's about. So you kind of looked at him when I said, I didn't even mean
to. They looked at me and said tinfoil hat.
That's just what the tinfoil companies want you to think.
That's right.
Y'all are going to laugh.
That's the big tinfoil.
Y'all laugh now. But
that's the tinfoil lobby.
Hey, let me ask you, does your phones know what you're thinking and advertise to what you're thinking sometimes?
No.
Really? You're
you're talking about saying or
like your advertisements that show up on like Facebook, stuff you thought of and didn't even said.
Yes, of course.
See, that used to happen to me.
Yeah.
And then I donned a tinfoil hat.
And then
it
stopped.
So
stop.
I actually line my pockets with tinfoil.
I wear this thing like Magneto.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're nerds.
Yeah. All right. Well, okay. So let's do this. Next week, we will try to come back and do an episode 2, and we'll try to have a little bit more together with exactly what we want to talk about. But I think as a field order or some sort of takeaway, what we would say is, pick one place in your life where the fire has burned something down. It could be your prayer life. It could be, your devotional study of God's word. It could be a friendship. It could be your commitment to the church. And do one thing to rebuild it. I talked about application being important. Do one thing this week. Lay one stone, one brick. If anybody listens to this, tell us about it. What do you guys think? You got any closing thoughts?
I want to make sure we ask Austin first. He's very sensitive.
Right. So he's
Thank
Mr.
you.
Sensitive over here.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you.
I'm an empath.
Yes. Let's build. Let's build. Let's do some kingdom building. And I'm hoping this podcast helps families, men particularly, but families in general, with kingdom building.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Encouraging them, helping them get resources, empowering them, teaching them, and perhaps even along the way, us learning from some of them.
Yeah. I think we're here to help, folks worship in the ruins. More to come. Just know God doesn't call us to wait until the smoke clears. He calls us to build in the smoke and catechize your kids.